What's new from Apple? There's the new iPhone 16 Pro, built for Apple Intelligence. And it comes with the all-new camera control, giving you an easier way to quickly access your camera tools. The new Apple Watch Series 10 has our biggest display and our thinnest design ever. And this? It's the sound of active noise cancellation, now available on one of 2 new AirPods 4 models. So quiet. Check out all of the new products and new features at apple.com. You can even buy yourself something new. See apple.com for product availability updates. Apple Intelligence coming this fall.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Earning your degree online doesn't mean you have to go about it alone. At Capella University, we're here to support you when you're ready. From enrollment counselors who get to know you and your goals, to academic coaches who can help you form a plan to stay on track. We care about your success and are dedicated to helping you pursue your goals. Going back to school is a big step, but having support at every step of your academic journey can make a big difference. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
What do you say to a toilet on its birthday? Happy B-Day. I was going to tell you a joke about dirt, but it's beneath us. Why don't you find all-you-can-eat restaurants on piers? 'Cause fishermen wharf it all down.
If you just read the bio for Dr. Steve, host of Weird Medicine on Sirius XM 103 and made popular by 2 really comedy shows, Opie and Anthony and Ron and Fez, you would have thought that this guy was a bit of, a clown.
Why can't you give me the respect that I'm entitled to?
I've got diphtheria crushing my esophagus. I've got Ebola virus dripping from my nose. I've got the leprosy of the heart valves, exacerbating my incredible woes. I want to take my brain out and blast it with the wave, an ultrasonic, echographic, and a pulsating shave. I want a magic pill for all my ailments, the health equivalent of Citizen Kane. And if I don't get it now in a tablet, I think I'm doomed and I'll have to go insane. I want a requiem for my disease, so I'm paging Dr. Steve. Dr. Steve!
From the world-famous Cardiff Electric Network studios, it's Weird Medicine, the first and still only uncensored medical show in the history of broadcast radio. Now a podcast. I'm Dr. Steve with my little pal, Dr. Scott, the traditional Chinese medical provider who gives me street cred. The wacko alternative medicine assholes. Hello, Dr. Scott.
Hey, Dr. Steve.
And Tacie, my partner in all things. Hello, Tacie.
What's up?
This is a show for people who would never listen to a medical show on the radio. That was cool, Tacie, by the way. On the radio or the internet. If you have a question that you're embarrassed to take to your regular medical provider who can't find an answer anywhere else, give us a call at 347-766-4323. That's 347.
Pooh-head.
Follow us on Twitter at Weird Medicine or DrScottWM. Visit our website at drsteve.com for podcasts, medical news, and stuff you can buy. Most importantly, we are not your medical providers. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Don't act on anything you hear on the show without talking it over with your healthcare provider. All right, very good, Dr. Scott. Well, check out stuff.drsteve.com, stuff.drsteve.com for all your online shopping needs, and simplyherbals.net, simplyherbals.net. For Dr. Scott's wacky stuff over there, and patreon.com/Weird Medicine for our Patreon show. We have exclusive content there, stuff you can't get anywhere else. Lots of tiers. It's not bad. Now, I don't mean Tacie makes me cry. There are lots of different levels, a.k.a. tiers, T-I-E-R-S, right?
I do make you cry, though.
That is true. There are lots of those kinds of tiers, too. But anyway... Yep, we have champagne and real pain. Get it? Well, there you go. Okay. All right. And, check me out on Cameo. Nobody ever does it, but cameo.com/weirdmedicine.
He gets so excited when he gets
I do. I
on.
love it. And I do. I mean, I do good things on there.
And it's $5 for our kids' college.
That's right.
I don't know if it's under $10. I know that. So by the time Cameo takes their chunk, it probably is about $5. Tace, you're right. I did have something that I wanted to talk about, and I don't know where it went to. Let me see here.
I want to talk about how hot it is in here.
And it's hot. It's hot and it's wine time.
It's hot and it's wine time.
Okay. Well, I wanted to, you know what? We'll do this next time because it's about No Nut November. And I've got a video, and it's not November yet, but I want people to get ready for No Nut November, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I had No Nut 2021, so, but this will be something I just want to trash pretty good.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do it next time. All right, very good.
Oh my gosh. Why?
You know what? I hit that by accident, and it worked perfectly.
Did it though?
Yeah, because we were talking about No Nut November. Very good. Well, Dr. Scott, how's simplyherbals.net going? That's Dr. Scott's website.
Pretty good.
Yeah? Well, you got anything new and interesting there?
Nothing new, but that sinus spray is going pretty wild. Tis the season.
Okay, yeah.
I meant to bring you some.
Oh.
Maybe I did bring you some.
Well, that'd be great because last week I was...
Yeah, you're miserable.
I was a little bit miserable. I'm better today, but we'll see. I also, on top of having horrible allergies, I have laryngeal dysfunction, which means that sometimes my vocal cords just clamp down and say, go F yourself or you're not talking for a while.
Spasm.
I'm really praying that this does not happen at the roast of Carl and Vitti, September 17th at Comedy on the... Jesus, if I do this well there. Comedy at the Carlson on September 17th in Rochester, New York, where I'm going to do my first and last roast, Tace.
Yeah.
First and last.
Good.
And I told them just think of me as Martha Stewart, because Martha Stewart, when she did her roast, and I can't remember who she was roasting, but she was hilarious.
Yes.
And she blew out everyone's expectations, and all she did was she had good writers. Mm-hmm. And she can read. Mm-hmm. And she had the right attitude. She had the cadence right. So I've been watching a lot of roasts, and I've got some really good people writing with me. I'll say with me because every one of their jokes I've sort of modified because this is a very specific audience. The people that are there won't be comedy people just coming to see a roast. They're coming to see Carl and Vinny get roasted. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you've got to have some in-jokes that if you're not part of that universe, you just won't know them. So anyway, and I have one joke I'm not going to do, but I'll do it when I get back here that I think would be okay, but it might be just a little bit too clean and clever to do.
Wouldn't want to do that.
I know.
No,
well, my jokes aren't dirty. I don't know. They're funny, but they're. But this one is. I actually heard. Who was the guy? Oh shit! Well, one of those commentators that used to be on Sunday Morning tell this joke, but it was hilarious. But I would modify it for this particular audience. But I'll do it when I get back because I just decided that it's too long, and if I lose people's interest during this joke, it won't be fun. But I'll tell it on this show because then I have, I can do whatever I want to do. People won't necessarily boo at me. I do want to say happy birthday to the owner of our network, Mr. Cardiff. Happy birthday, sir. All right. So, Dr. Scott. We got to do this story. Tacie gave me this one.
Oh, cool.
This is from the New England Journal of Medicine. Forget the clickbait stuff that you'll read. This is the actual study from New England Journal of Medicine, and it's nirmatrelvir use and severe COVID-19 outcomes during the Omicron surge. Now, you remember Omicron was a really a highly transmissible version of this asshole virus. But we didn't see the numbers of hospitalizations and deaths with that.
Right.
So you have to remember that when we're talking about this study. Mm-hmm. So they obtained, and this was a retrospective study. We obtained data for all members of the Clalit Health Services. This was an Israeli study, who were 40 years of age or older at the start of the study period, and were assessed as being eligible to receive nirmatrelvir therapy during the Omicron surge. So we know this. Nirmatrelvir ritonavir is also known as Paxolovid in the United States. And what they did was they made sure that people qualified that they were at high risk before they did this. If they were between 40 and 65, or what did I say? Between 40 and 40 years and older. Okay, they looked at anybody 40 years and older. Sorry. So they used this risk score model. And the criteria is you had to have at least 2 points.
Okay.
So, number one, age greater than or equal to 70 gets you 2 points.
Okay.
So, if you're 70 or older, you qualified. If you were 50 to 59, that would remove a point. If you were 40 to 49, that would remove 3 points. So, if they were unvaccinated or only had a single dose of any vaccine, they got 5 points. If they were immunosuppressed, they got 7. So if you were, and if you'd been hospitalized in the past 3 years, you got 1 point for each hospitalization. So let's say you were hospitalized 3 times for COPD, an exacerbation of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and so that would be 3 points. And you have COPD, so that would be 4 points. But then you were between 40 and 49, that would remove 3 points. So now you're down to 1 point. You wouldn't qualify for this. So the people who qualified for this study were pretty freaking sick, right? You understand? No, they're not. Neither one of them is paying attention to me. Okay, that's all right. I'll just keep barreling on.
You're doing good.
So thank you.
I'm taking notes.
So they looked at 110,000 patients, and of those, only 4% received this nirmatrelvir.
Just call it Paxlovid.
Paxlovid, okay. They got 4% received nirmatrelvir during the study period.
Or don't.
And then among patients 65 years or older, the rate of hospitalization was 14 cases per 100,000 person days. So the thing is, already the baseline's going to be low as shit. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to show a huge effect to show any benefit from this, right?
Right.
And then, let me see, among treated patients, as compared with 60 cases per 100,000, still low among untreated patients. So if you were 65 or older, there was a significant reduction in risk of going to the hospital. And the adjusted hazard ratio for death due to COVID-19 was 0.21 among patients 40 to 64 years of age. The rate of hospitalizations due to COVID-19 was 15.2 cases per 100,000 among treated patients and 15.8 patients per 100,000 among untreated patients. So they're not saying that this drug, you'll read this, they'll say Paxlovid's not effective. And that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is that people who were 40 to 64 were at low risk of being admitted to the hospital in the first effing place.
Right.
Okay? So, 15 per 100,000 person days, 15.8 if they were untreated and 15.2 if they got the treatment, and it was not statistically significant. And so the thing is that right now, I probably, if I were if I could go back in time in the Omicron surge, I would say, if you're in that age group, don't take anything. Because your risk of going to the hospital in the first place is low.
It's teeny, yeah.
So all the Paxolovid did was just sort of confirm that, it was already low, and there's not a whole lot I can do in a situation like that. Yeah, as a drug.
But I just wonder about the placebo. They teased out the placebo, just them being given
and the symptoms,
them being given something by their healthcare provider, and then all of a sudden now they are going to feel better,
right? Well,
because they think they're getting help. Yeah.
All they looked at though was rate of hospitalization and death.
That's a terrible study, Dr.
No,
it's
not a terrible study.
It's not double-blind placebo.
That's right. It's
retrospective.
Give yourself a bill.
Get one of those.
I've got a study with 5 people in it today.
Yeah, we've had a couple of
called Bridge. Called Bridge.
That's pretty good.
No, I do. I have a study with 5 people.
Yeah, and is that the wristband study?
Yeah.
Well, we'll do the. Let's do the.
I'll do it when I want.
All right. Well, by God. And you know what? When I set up the new soundboard, I didn't put Ronnie B on here, so I don't have. Damn it! I'm an idiot.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Okay, so just until next week, don't take advice from some asshole on the radio.
That's right.
Right on.
All right, so let's do that one. But this is not a bad study. This shows that if you are elderly and you're at risk, you should take this stuff.
Okay.
It really, even in Omicron, it decreased. Even with very low rates of hospitalization, it did reduce the rate of hospitalization. Now, these variants, we don't know. Yeah. We're always chasing our tail.
Yep.
So if I've got somebody that's high risk, I'm still putting them on this until they say it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
You have to. No, I agree.
All right. Let's do this phone call. Here you go, Tace.
Hi, Dr. Steve. This is Phil from Tampa, and I was calling because I was curious if you had an opinion, one way or the other, of using weighted wristbands or ankle bands while walking outside. I usually in the morning before work try to walk the neighborhood, like 1.5 miles or more, a couple of days a week. And I was thinking about using some either weighted bands, wrist or leg bands, to maybe enhance it a little bit. But I've had some family tell me that it's not a great idea and it can hurt more. And I'm just curious if you have a thought one way or the other. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Well, I think all things being equal, exerting slightly more energy is worthy. I mean,
yes.
Boxers will train with heavier gloves than they're going to use.
Yep. Baseball players swing weighted bats before they bat. That's
now,
correct.
if you have a musculoskeletal injury, that would preclude you from walking around with weights on your legs and arms, then I would not recommend it. But if you were healthy and otherwise, cleared for that kind of exercise, I think it'd be a good thing. Tacie, you know a little something
I
about
found
this.
some information on it, and some of the benefits are boosting the intensity of your workout.
Sure.
Using weights between 1 and 3 pounds can increase the amount of oxygen you breathe by 5 to 15%.
Really?
It also raises your heart rate 5 to 10 beats per minute.
And this was the study that had 5 people in it?
No, the study that had 5 people in it were... hold on.
Sorry. You could have just said no, and then I would have moved on.
Well,
That's
but
okay.
this was talking about weighted wristbands for people who have tremors.
Oh, this is interesting.
And
so there are other reasons to wear weighted wristbands other than exercise. Go ahead. Yeah, I remember when you found this.
That they looked at 5 people, and it showed improvement when they wore the weighted wrist cuffs for tremors.
Yeah.
It took less time to finish a meal. They made fewer spills, and some showed a general decrease in tremor symptoms.
Now, did they say what kind of tremors they had? Was it familial?
Nope, they did not.
Familial tremor or Parkinson's disease? Because there are different types of tremors.
Oh, yeah.
There are intention tremors, and intention tremors happen when you go to do something and then you start tremoring, like you're reaching for a cup or something like that, and then it starts to shake. And you'll get that with a couple of things. Parkinson's disease is one. You can get that with certain strokes of the back part of the brain. And then there's sort of this familial genetic tremor that's just where you just tremor all the time, and actually, my Myrtle character has that. That's where that comes from. That's what that is. It's a familial tremor in her voice.
Sometimes people, you got to be specific and Google the types of workouts that you can do using wrist rates, but it talks about how if you use them while you're walking, it can lead to muscle imbalance as you swing your arms back and forth.
That makes sense. You always got to keep your muscles in balance because you don't want, big giant calf muscles and little tiny thigh muscles. It looks stupid. Or the opposite's even dumber looking.
And also, it can cause joint and tendon injuries in the wrist, elbows, shoulders, and neck.
One thing I was going to say, Tace and Scott, you're the professional athlete in this group, is don't use them ballistically. In other words, you don't want jerking movements. You want nice, smooth, low-impact movements with those things.
They're great for targeted exercise if you can't grip a dumbbell, it says.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, well, that makes sense. Scott, where are you on all of this?
Well, I was going to say, I think that...
For people who don't know, Scott his brother is a professional athlete.
They played professionally.
So that's good enough for us.
I turned it down so I could go to school and play in college. Yeah.
Scott played. You played college,
right?
Yeah,
Division I baseball. Yep.
Yeah. So he could have been a pro.
I could have
been a contender.
Could have been a contender. I could have been until I blew up my stupid knee 2 games before the end of my final year at Eastern Kentucky.
Oh, geez.
I hate that school still. But anyway, no. I think this is all wonderful. The thing I would say is that anytime you have any of these weights past your knee or past your elbow, you do run a real risk of some tendinous injuries in your elbows and your knees both. So I wouldn't do anything heavy, and I certainly wouldn't do a lot of rotational movements.
Yes.
Keep it all in a very linear fashion. That way you're really isolating your biceps, your triceps, your quads, instead of rotating. Because where I see a lot of injuries, especially weightlifters, is when they're curling
and they're
rotating.
Oh,
it just wears them out.
Tell them what happens when they do that.
Well, they get a little thing called, typically it's lateral epicondylitis or medial epicondylitis, which would be golfer's elbow or tennis elbow.
Give yourself a bill.
And that happens really regularly.
Which hurts.
And it hurts like crazy. And really the best treatment for that is to quit doing that motion.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you can get back to it. But I love the idea of adding just a little bit of that extra weight. I think it increases the aerobic capacity, so you're getting in more oxygen. So I think it's great as long as it doesn't hurt. Yeah.
I walk about 2 miles just in the hospital when I'm making rounds and stuff. I should do that.
Put some little weights on your ankles.
When I'm running up and down the stairs and stuff.
And even if it bothers your knees, just put a little weight belt on.
Yeah.
And just just an extra little bit of weight around your...
I would do it on my arms.
Yeah,
I used to have big old guns. Now I just look like a...
old man.
Simp.
Can you see him walking through doing the speed walk? I can too. He's walking through the hospital speed walking.
He'd do that.
Oh, I know he would.
Oh, when my back is good, which it is right now, I'm hauling. They can't keep up with me. That's how everybody knew I was sick, was when they could, they didn't have to try to run to stay close to me, because I'm always turning around and walking backwards going, come on.
Yeah, when you were scooching
I'm such
your
a nudge.
foot, when you were scooching your feet along and walking like you had Parkinson's, that was an issue.
Yeah.
That was a big issue.
Yeah. So, it was attractive, though, wasn't it?
Thankfully, that's not happening.
You loved it?
Mm-hmm. He was bent halfway over.
That's my new drop. I got to get a better version of it than that.
You are a liar, actress, go the out.
If you know who that is, you know who it is. If you don't, you're missing out. Yep. Just watch Love Island UK season 8. I'm just telling you, it's the greatest thing ever.
I talk like a Hicks talking about kettlebells.
Okay, yeah. May
I talk about kettlebells?
Please.
Hey, I'm just going to tell you, kettlebells.
And you're going to get a bunch of hate mail on this. This is Dr. Scott saying this.
Yeah, this is yes. Make them all to Dr. Steve at Weird Medicine. But now those kettlebells have made me more money than any gym has made with them. They're usually a little too heavy and a little too dynamic, like you said before, ballistic, and they can cause a lot of overuse injuries for sure.
Yeah.
Not saying not to do it, but I'm just saying it's they can be
do it
dangerous.
properly and
be
work up to
careful.
it. Those guys that do the clean and jerk and stuff, I mean, they work up from smaller weights.
Yeah, they
and
just start at the top.
And they have technique.
Yeah.
And they've got the muscle mass to support their back, particularly when they're doing that. I don't know how some of them, when they're lifting, 3 tons or whatever they're lifting, it's just insane.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's amazing to me that the human body can do that.
Dr. Steve, I always encourage people to spend as much time stretching and making sure you have good range of motion, making sure there's less tension on those connective tissues, your ligaments and tendons.
Yep.
Spend as much time stretching as
I
you
used
do
to blow it
weightlifting.
off, and I made a huge mistake doing that. I tore my, gastrocnemius muscle from trying to run at my age without stretching and, going straight to running 2 and 3 miles without, working up to it and stuff, just thinking I was still 18.
Yep.
And stretching makes a huge difference.
Yep.
And do your warm-up. You have to do your warm-up. We've got another question about cool down that's coming. I'll just go ahead and see if I can find that. Oh, I've got it here. Let's do that one since we're on, exercise and sports and stuff.
Sounds good.
Let's do
Hey,
this.
Dr. Steve. This is John from Chicago. Howdy. How's it going, Dr. Scott? Tacie?
What's up?
Hi.
Hi.
What's up?
Hi.
Super. Hope you all are doing good.
Yep.
Hey, I got a question for you about so I like going on long hikes and trail running and whatnot, and sometimes I've noticed when you're out there for a long time and you need to eat food and you're stressing your body out, you're on mile 20 or something.
Yeah.
I've noticed that.
Certain foods, I don't know, they just don't hit you. Like, for example, I was on a run and my body I put a bunch of some sugary treats and salty stuff in my mouth, and my body was like, I don't want this, and just spit it out. But I knew I needed calories, and I'm like, my stomach body just gave me that, I'm going to throw up, like I'm rejecting it feeling. So what is going on there? Why does the body, even though it knows it needs food and calories?
Yeah, that's a teleological argument, my friend. The body doesn't actually know anything. That's the problem. But we talk about it that way, so I'm okay working within that model as long as we all understand that. Sure.
Why does it act like that? Is there something going on?
Why does it act so stupid? Because I say the same thing. My brain is trying to kill me when I'm driving home.
Goes to sleep
from Norton, Virginia. And it's trying to make me take a nap while I'm driving, so I do understand.
Or is it really just a mind over matter kind of a thing when you're stressing your body at those kind of crazy extremes?
I'll throw in one thing about this where he's talking about, he's on mile 20 and now he's trying to eat something. And the problem is that all of your blood flow is directed away from your GI tract when you're on mile 20. Yep. And so, putting food in your stomach at that moment can be very problematic for a lot of people because it just can't work it. But, Scott, he's really talking about is hitting the wall. You and Tacie know more about this than I do, although when our son Liam was long-distance running, I worked on some performance-enhancing thing.
I remember that. I do. Yeah,
not in an illegal way, but just
no.
What can he do before he runs and what can he do after he runs? So Scott, why don't you talk about hitting the wall and what he can do and why this isn't working? Well, I kind of explain why he's getting the physical symptoms, but what should he be doing instead?
Yeah, well, the first thing when you're on those long runs and those hikes and stuff is start early, making sure that you're taking little bits of food as you're moving through and not cramming a bunch, when you get starved or when you get to mile 20. Hydration is key. And when you hit a wall, hitting the wall in exercise is a really strange feeling. And being able to take a step back, not necessarily physically, but mentally from that wall and figuring out how you're going to get over it.
Do you know the German term for hitting the wall? Der Mann mit dem Hammer.
No, I didn't know that.
It means the man with the hammer.
The man with the hammer.
That's what it feels like.
It is. It's just like hammer. It's like you don't think you can go through, but you hear the Navy. You read those books on the Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs talking about how you've only reached 10% or 20% of your maximum, and you just have to keep pushing through it. and all he can do is just continue to stay hydrated, which is more importantly. And some of those drinks like the Gatorades, Powerades, etc., have some nutrients in it to keep him moving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, a lot of when you're doing endurance stuff and you hit the wall, it's because. Well, the hypothesis is because you have run out of carbohydrate stores.
Oh, okay.
So you store glycogen, which is basically just a polycarbohydrate. It's polyglucose. You take a bunch of glucose molecules and you stitch them together with lots of different connections. So it just sort of makes a starch mass, and you can store glycogen in your liver and in muscle tissue. And when it runs out, now you have to start burning other things. You either have to burn protein or fat.
Gotcha.
And a lot of these runners don't have a lot of fat.
No.
And so they just they don't have anything to burn. And I'm reading here that the typical untrained individual like me on an average diet can store about 380 grams of glycogen. That's like 1,500 calories. So when you've burned through that 1,500 calories, and chemical energy is very efficient, but you can still, when you're running, you can burn through it pretty fast. Then it's gone, And so if you're running, you can do 800 kilocalories per hour. So that would be 2 hours, and then boom, you're done. And you've got to replenish those glycogen stores through exercise, or they're gonna be completely depleted, and at that point you'll start cramping up, and you just can't do anymore. And so carbohydrate loading is what endurance people will do. Now, if you're not doing endurance, you shouldn't have to do this, but you can do this equivalent thing if you're just hiking. By taking in small amounts of carbohydrate-laden, rehydration drinks like Dr. Scott's talking about. Yeah, because the worst thing you can do, well, not the worst thing you can do, worst thing you do is break your leg in a ditch out in the middle of the Appalachian Trail. Nobody comes along for 2 weeks. So that would be the worst thing.
That'd be bad,
one of the things that people do that is a mistake is that if it's hot out and they're sweating and then they're replacing and then pissing and then they're replacing that with free water. In other words, just plain water. Because now you are excreting sodium through sweat and through urine and stuff, and then you're drinking free water. You're not replacing it.
Right. You're not filling
So you do want to replace it. And there are several rehydration solutions out there that you can take with you. Gatorade's decent for the people who aren't elite athletes and stuff like that. But if you're doing endurance running like our kid did, carbohydrate loading is important to make sure that you're storing enough glycogen so that you don't hit the wall. And then consuming food or drinks containing carbohydrates during the exercise, it's a must for long distances. And, I'm looking at this. It says that Tour de France competitors receive 50% of their daily caloric intake from on-the-bike supplements.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who does the 50-mile and 100-mile runs.
That's stupid.
Yeah, it's insane. I'll ask him though.
Well, that's because you're an idiot.
I'm going to ask him if he's trained himself to be able to eat and tolerate food while he's running.
Yeah,
because that would be something else. I wonder if you work through it. I guess you could probably eventually train yourself.
Yeah,
to
if you do small
food.
amounts, you could train your body
I would think so.
to do that.
How many calories are these people taking in that do
Lord. He eats a ton. I don't know.
I bet.
When the funny thing is, when I used to do competitive archery, my mentor was a guy that was the 10-time indoor champion.
Okay.
And he was my best friend at the time. We would go to these things, and he would always say, "Oh no, we got a carbo load." And so they have these things, and the indoor championships be in Vegas, and they had all these buffets, and he would get all this pasta and potatoes and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do this too. And so I did. And then later on, when I started studying this, it's like, this complete horse shit. He was just wanted to eat a lot. because that kind of competition does not require. You're not going to run out of glycogen stores.
Not there.
Particularly when you're 5'11", you weigh 350 pounds.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
I'm afraid it sounds like he was on his way to type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
With that
Still
kind of diet.
one of the greatest people I ever
That's
met.
cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Talk Like Geeks got a question continuing.
That would be Amy from Kentucky.
Sweet Amy from Kentucky. Yeah, that's right. She's from
I don't know how
around
sweet
Paducah.
she is. That's you're saying that.
No, she's got to be sweet if she's from Paducah. So she's wanting to know about is it okay for preteens to lift weights within a reasonable amount of weights?
That's a good question.
And I've got some answers.
Go ahead. Yeah, if you got the answer. I have an answer, but I want to hear yours.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would absolutely make sure that whoever is teaching your preteen to lift weights knows what they're doing. You don't want to lift them too much.
Yep.
Because it can cause a whole lot more injuries, especially if they still have growth plates.
Yep.
And if they've not
Give yourself a bill.
maybe a little different for females if they've grown and they're not growing anymore, but I would absolutely be super cautious.
It's not the age; it's the pubertal stage.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I guess suggesting women.
You raise that point
it would
because
be a little
women
more-
tend to mature. Puberty. I mean, they go through puberty at a younger age than men do.
And they could probably tolerate weightlifting a little better. But I will tell you this from experience. What I see is a lot of kids as they go through elementary school, middle school, high school, lifting way too heavy weights, they get injuries, and I treat them like with those same injuries for their entire life, and you do too.
Yep.
We see the same thing. So I would say focus on stretching, focus on range of motion. If you've got a kid that has any kind of limitations in range of motion, they're at a really high risk for long-term injury. Yeah, work on super focus.
They're so
on
limber
stretching.
then we want to maintain that. I
Yep.
mean, if I do yoga now, I look like the biggest doofus. And by the way, if you're the same as me, that's okay. You still get the same benefit from yoga as the people that do the highfalutin moves and stuff, as long as you try to attain the pose. So I don't want to chase people away, but I look idiotic because I just let myself get so stiff.
Yep.
And Sensei Joyner, who's been on the show several times, had this leg stretching thing, and it's a machine, and you sit on it, and it spreads your legs. And I could go. The kids could do 180 degrees, and I was lucky to get 45, 60 degrees sometimes.
just enough
oh God,
to take a
it
leak.
hurts right in there. But
just enough to pee.
I just wonder if at my age I could, if I did it for a year, could I really make some progress with that, or am I just done?
I believe, unless you've got some kind of strange autoimmune disorder, musculoskeletal disorder, that if you did it properly and went really slowly, 20%,
you got to do really slowly.
20% of max stretch for greater than 2 minutes. Let those muscle fibers get long. Greater than 2 minutes for each of these stretches. Research has shown those muscle fibers will turn loose, so that gives you a chance for all that to stretch. And then, if you really want to get fancy, up to a 30-minute non-loaded stretch to stretch fascia.
Yeah,
because fascia is not as obviously as well vascularized as muscles, but fascia will stretch too. It just takes longer to
explain what fascia is for people, because they think you're saying fascist.
Oh, fascist? No, that would be fascist if I said that. But fascia is not. Oh, I just lost a bell. Come on, man. I just lost it. But fascia is the connective tissue that keeps everything in your body in place.
Right.
Keeps your organs in place. It keeps your muscles where they're supposed to be. It keeps everything kind of smoothing and gliding as it's supposed to. So, and it's the stuff like if you have a chicken breast and you're gonna eat chicken for dinner and you peel that little silver piece of skin off of the muscle. That's what it is. Ooh,
yeah, that's very good.
Fascia.
All right, where are we?
Who knows?
So concentrate on stretching and endurance with prepubertal kids, and I would not recommend bodybuilding, muscle, attempting to get huge muscles in a prepubertal kid. Now, there may be some people that would argue with that, but that's the safest way to go. There may be ways to do it, but that would require an elite trainer and stuff like that. And I don't even think it makes sense to do it. But anyway, all right.
Today's episode is brought to you by Angie. Angie has made it easier than ever to connect with skilled professionals to get all your jobs and projects done well. Let me tell you, there's the version of it where you try to do something at home, and then there's a version of it where you have someone help you, you watch them do it the right way, and you go, thank God I didn't try to do that myself. I have fully done things around the home that I think look good, and then a bang in the night, and I wake up to a shelf collapsing, a painting falling off the wall. I've seen it all go south. I own a home, and I can tell you, I know how much work it can take. Whether it's everyday maintenance and repairs or making dream projects a reality, it can be hard just to know where to start. But now all you need to do is Angie that and find a skilled local pro who will deliver the quality and expertise you need. Whatever your home project, big or small, indoor or outdoor, you can Angie that and connect with skilled professionals to get the project done well. Right now, one of my wish lists is I want a bike for my condo in Milwaukee, and I would love to rig it up on a pulley in the ceiling because I have one of those like lofted ceilings, but I'm so scared to try that on my own. Angie has 20 years of home experience, and they've combined it with new tools to simplify the whole process. Bring them your project online or with the Angie app. Answer a few questions and Angie can handle the rest from start to finish, or help you compare quotes from multiple pros and connect instantly, which means you can take care of any home project in just a few taps. Because when it comes to getting the most out of your home, you can do this when you Angie that. Download the free Angie mobile app today or visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com.
Hear that? Yeah, that's the sound of you relaxing, because now you're managing diabetes with the Freestyle Libre 3 system. You get to know your glucose levels and where it's headed. Manage your diabetes with more confidence with the Freestyle Libre 3 system. Ready to learn more about the #1 prescribed CGM in the U.S.? Visit freestylelibre.us to learn more. Based on retail sales data for patients' last filled prescription by manufacturer. Refer to the FLAIR NL4 study published in BMJ Open Diabetes Research and Care 2019. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Introducing our biggest GMC Acadia ever. Offering bigger screens, bigger views, and even bigger journeys. Live your biggest life in the all-new GMC Acadia.
This episode is brought to you by Tinder. Picture this. You're at your favorite coffee shop, and your eyes meet with someone across the room. It's a classic meet cute. Moments like that are happening all the time on Tinder. A new relationship starts every 3 seconds on Tinder. So, instead of leaving your meet cute moment to chance, take control. Open Tinder and explore all of the possibilities for yourself. Tinder, it starts with a swipe. Download Tinder today.
Bring fun to life with the Instax Mini Link 3 smartphone printer. It's easy to transform your everyday moments into colorful Instax mini prints straight from your smartphone's camera roll. And with the new Click to Collage feature, you can create the ultimate in-app photo booth experience. Instax Mini Link 3. Don't just take, give. Click or tap now to learn more and shop.
Okie dokie. You want to just do a weird one?
Sure.
Okay, let's do this one.
Hey, Doc. This is Jack Zim from Patreon. I listen to the show, and I've asked you medical questions before, but I was listening to the exam room with Kumia, and it made me think you were talking.
What he's talking about is our Patreon, patreon.com/weirdmedicine.
Ooh.
And we had the Troika of Opie and Anthony. We had Greg Hughes, the actor who played Opie on the Opie and Anthony show, Jim Norton, and then we had Anthony Cumia. That's what he's talking
about. Other life in the galaxy. And I was really curious about, if you're from the Carolinas, if what you think of Stephen Greer and all that contacting UFO stuff and how we can basically do it ourselves, and whether you think that's BS or not. I know you're like a logical, fact-based guy, but I think it'd be really interesting to hear like a couple in-depth shows about what you think of just all this UFO stuff that's been coming out, and even the Prometheus type theory.
Yeah.
How our planet was seeded. Yeah. You know, coming from a guy like you who's very intelligent, I think that'd be interesting. But take care, Doc. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks. So Stephen Greer, he's a ufologist, and he founded this thing called the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which is SETI, which is not to be confused with SETI, which is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which is the
course.
okay.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but anyway, he saw a UFO when he was a kid. He is and this is not to discredit him at all. He's trained as a transcendental meditation teacher. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's awesome. And he has an MD degree from James H. Quillen College of Medicine at East Tennessee University in 1987, which makes me think that I may have been his one of his residents. Which is interesting because I was clinical instructor at that place back in that time. So that's very interesting. I would love to talk to this guy. I am fascinated. I was fascinated in UFOs when I was a kid, and then I just got disappointed because it's always like, oh, well, we got this great picture, we got this picture, and there's no aliens on the White House lawn or the Kremlin lawn or in the Forbidden City, no evidence. Everything is it's covered up and all this stuff, and I just got frustrated with it. It's look, if it's real, then I just can't. I just can't do it until it's demonstrated to me that it's not real. I mean, that it is real. Mm-hmm. I got to have it because I'm not going to be chasing this shit anymore, because then I'm like a flat earther or a conspiracy person or whatever. I can't do it. That's how I feel. Good for him. Hope he chases it down and figures it out and then reveals the truth to the world. The thing that interests me is that either way, it is an astounding outcome. So let's concentrate for a second, Jesus, on the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So they do this in multiple ways, but it's mostly looking at the sky with radio telescopes and looking for broadcasts or information that would have to come from an intelligent source. Okay. You could find a Dyson sphere through optical or radio or infrared astronomy, which a Dyson sphere is where you have a star that is has been co-opted by a super intelligent, super technologically advanced species that has surrounded a star with a sphere and are taking all the energy. Just put a giant solar panel at the distance between the sun and the Earth, mm-hmm. right? And then just put a solar panel around that whole thing in a sphere, and that will radiate. It won't be perfect, so it would radiate infrared, but we wouldn't see any light from it. Mm-hmm. And so those kinds of things, we could look for those things. Mm-hmm. That would be a very distinct signature that there is, intelligent life there. We had a star that had a thing going around it that we couldn't see it, but we could detect it through dimming of the light of the star, and it didn't look like a regular planet. People were proposing perhaps it was a Dyson sphere under construction, but then it turned out it's probably just dust from a planet that broke up and it's still circling the star, and it's all spread out. So the thing that boggles my mind is if we find intelligence out there, that's going to be an outstanding and insanely important thing for us to know. Because when you have one species that has intelligence, you know something about that one species. But when you have two, now you start to know stuff. It's like the first person that figured out what an antibody looked like, the molecular structure, they knew something. Right. But when they did the second one, they knew everything, because now you could see what was the same and what was different. And all the stuff that's the same is the same, and all the stuff that's different is where all the cool stuff happens. So that's when they start learning. It's the same thing with intelligent species. What's the same? Did they evolve eyes independently the way we did from our from octopi? we don't have any relation to octopi, but we have the same fucking eye construction.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So stuff like that. There are certain numbers that we can use to communicate with them that will tell them that we're intelligent. 1/137 is one of those. That is the fine structure constant. It's constant across the universe, and it doesn't have units. So it will be the same for an alien species as it is for us and anybody else. There's no units. So if you know how to count, and you can count to 137, and you know anything about how the atomic structure works, you will know that number. So, but we have been searching for extraterrestrial intelligence for 50-odd years now.
Yep.
Nothing. You know, and that starts people wondering about the rare Earth hypothesis. You know, is it possible that in the observable universe we're the only thing here? It seems impossible to look at Andromeda Galaxy and see that there's just so many stars in that thing that it's unbelievable.
Vacant.
You can't, and it's completely vacant, you know, devoid of life. It seems completely impossible.
Yeah.
But then where are they? So until we find life somewhere else, we can only assume things about it that, you know, well, it makes sense to us, but we can't really make a claim about it. It's just like I was talking about Liam the other day. He's taken this class on philosophy of science. One of the things in philosophy of science is just, you know, is empiricism. And one of the things you could say, there are no white crows. That could be your hypothesis. And you count every crow that goes by, and every crow is black. No white crows, no white crows, no white. So, but you see 100,000 black crows, it doesn't prove your hypothesis. It just makes it more likely. But one white crow will disprove your hypothesis, right?
Yep.
So we every day that goes by that we don't find an intelligent species in the universe makes it less likely that they're there. But all we have to do is find one to disprove the hypothesis that we're alone. Yep. So now when it comes to UFOs, how are they getting here? They would have to have either an incredibly long lifespan so that it doesn't make... They don't care that it takes them 100,000 years to get here from the other side of the galaxy. Traveling near the speed of light, to them, it would just be almost instantaneous. Or they would have to have warp drive, something that we've posited could be real, but it's got to have things like negative energy and negative matter and things we don't know anything how to create those. We don't even know if they exist.
Right.
So they would have to have that, or they have to have the ability to open up interdimensional doors. Like I'm reading a book now called The Fall of Hyperion, which is written, Tacie, by the guy that did The Terror. Remember the Terror is such a great mini-series. But anyway, about the guys that got trapped in the Northwest Passage for like 4 years, and they went out of their gourds because their canned foods, which they did bring enough, were sealed with lead, and they all got lead poisoning and stuff. But anyway, in this book, they have these doorways that you can just walk through, and you go from one planet to another, and it's no big deal. We'd have to have something like that, but how in the hell do you make something like that? And how do you compensate for this planet's traveling at this speed and the one you're walking through is traveling at 20,000, miles per second compared to you? How do you adjust for all that? How do you make those things work? So that's inconceivable to us. But Arthur Clarke said that any sufficiently advanced technology would look to us as if it were magic. So, and think about that. It makes sense. Yeah. If you took my wristwatch back in time and could somehow still make it work and showed it to, Galileo, he would, say, "Oh, this is a wizard," and you would be burned at the stake. So anyway, so it's very interesting. True. I want it to be true. Right now, I can't. I just can't worry about it. I just have to wake up every day saying, look at the newspapers. Did they find intelligent life in the universe yet? And the answer is, so far in my life, has been no. So I just move on with my day. That's the only way I can deal with it. Tacie, do you even give a shit?
No, I don't care about space nor robots.
Yep. Well, I'm robots. Okay. You're so funny.
Except for your Zumba.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and dolphin.
And what?
And your dolphin.
Dolphin. What is that? Is that like a sex toy?
Don't you have your dolphin, your pool vacuum?
Oh, we call that the booger.
Yeah, we call it that. That's Stacey's name.
I do love the booger.
I love mine too.
All right. Well, we've got a little bit left to go here. You want to do one on irritable bowel or Metamucil and flatulence?
Let's do
irritable bowel. Did we do post-exercise resuscitation? Did we finish that?
No.
No.
Okay.
You kind of went off on a tangent.
Yeah. Sorry. So one thing I learned was that chocolate milk is just as good as muscle milk. When you get done, the muscle milk people will curse at me. Mm-hmm. But I had talked to our friends SETI and Richard David Smith that are the creators of hyperphysics. Mm-hmm. It's HYPERFIZZICS, which is an energy drink for nerds. And you can just Google it. Mm. And they produce this stuff. And I had talked to them at one point about having a pre-exercise drink.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
And a post-exercise drink. And some of the research I found was that arginine supplementation. Arginine is an amino acid that increases nitric oxide right. in the bloodstream. Would be possibly performance enhancing, particularly for elite athletes.
Okay.
And if you increase nitric oxide, you're dilating blood vessels and you're getting more blood flow to muscle tissue, and so using that as a and then when you're done, what you want is protein and electrolytes and fluid,
right.
And coming up with something like that, because you want to be able to rebuild that muscle. There's some data that creatine is effective for that as well. So, we were trying to come up with a formula that would, this is your pre stuff, now you go run, and then this is the stuff you drink at post. But you can do it on your own. And anybody that's interested in that, I can send them what I found in my research. Anyway, all right.
All
Anything
right.
else that you have for post-exercise resuscitation, Dr. Scott? Post-exercise resuscitation, stretch then, too.
Stretch.
Before and after.
Is that enough of a cool down?
I would stretch. I wouldn't even worry about stretching beforehand. I'd just stretch after.
What?
Just double stretch it. Research has shown that stretching beforehand does not give you near the benefits of stretching afterwards.
But you still need to stretch beforehand, though.
You can do some muscle warmer-uppers.
So you just said that.
Muscle warmer-uppers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I do muscle warmer-uppers, but stretch later.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's Dr. Scott saying that.
Yep.
All right. Here we go.
Hey, Dr. Steve, just a really quick question. Lately, on the internet, they say that chiropractic is a little bit of a scam, that there's no real medical...
Just lately they've said that? I mean, I've seen that for my whole career, but...
Or it just...
I don't agree with it.
Science. Just want to hear what your opinion...
Okay, so we're running a little bit low on time, but I have no problem with chiropractic when the data shows that when they stay in their lane, which is low back pain, that their treatments can be very effective.
Yes.
And there's lots of data on that. Yeah. When I have problems is when you get the DC after your name. If you start saying, well, I can also manipulate the cancer out of your bloodstream, or I can do these kinds of things, then I have a problem with it.
Or your sinus infection. I'm going to adjust your ear so I can make your sinus infection.
Yeah, it's just like lots of things are associated with the spine, but not everything, guys. I mean, and we used to have a chiropractor on the show on a regular basis, Dr. K. She's no longer with us. And she would say the same thing.
She's brilliant. She was off. Yeah, she was wonderful.
And my chiropractor, I have a chiropractor I went to when I had the worst of my back pain, and he took one look at my X-ray. I went, dude, I can't help you, and I respected that.
Absolutely.
Now that's the real deal. So, and most of the chiropractors that I know will tell you the same thing.
What about the popping of the neck?
Yeah,
that's not good.
That's. What happens is...
I mean, I had a friend who had a stroke after it happened.
That was what I was going to say. Every once in a while, you can knock a plaque loose, or you can
actually... an intravertebral artery.
Yep, Yep, you can actually cut off an artery, or you can cause a tear in an artery that goes to the brain. It is extremely rare. Chiropractors did this stuff for ages, and there were
and osteopaths
as well. That's right. And and I used to do it because it makes you feel better. But then I read some of these case reports, and I was like, oh God, I'm not going to do that anymore. But there are other ways to adjust the neck and the spine without doing those crankings anymore. And the chiropractors have machines now. They've got thumpers. They've got all kinds of stuff that does it much more gently.
They've got activators and sometimes just a really simple traction with a simple turning into the side it's out can actually adjust it without all the crazy stuff.
They have some good techniques that are some almost merging more toward physical therapy now than it used to.
Yeah, agreed.
That's the whole myth of the chiropractor going, and cracking your back and all that stuff. So I think they're fine. If you find one that's, does their thing and they're cool about it, then I don't have a problem with it. So, Dr. Scott, before we go, you got any other questions for us?
Hey, I do. Mick was asking, how would vagus nerve dysfunction be diagnosed and treated? So I guess Mick is having some symptoms like erratic sweating, some GI dysmotility, lots of nasal secretions, and a lot of fatigue.
Is that what he's saying?
That's what it says. Yeah, right here. Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And fatigue.
Yeah. The thing that I would be interested in who diagnosed that.
Right.
Because normally what we'll see when the vagal nerve. So the vagal nerve is one of the major nerve trunks that goes from the brain down through the body. And when someone faints because they got scared or something, that is we call that a vasovagal syncopal episode, which basically means the vagus nerve wasn't sending the proper signals to the circulatory system to clamp down and keep blood pressure going to the brain, and it fails, and then the blood pressure drops in the brain, and the blood rushes out of the brain, and then you faint. So the vagus nerve does all kinds of stuff. As a matter of fact, we can stimulate a branch of the vagus nerve in the ear.
Yes.
And you can when you stimulate that, it can decrease pain in remote parts of the body. So the vagus nerve is a very important nerve. It does a lot of things. When I see people with vagal nerve dysfunction, they either have low heart rate or fast heart rate. That's the biggest thing that I see. And with low heart rate, we'll call that bradycardia, and fast heart rate tachycardia. And but the vagus nerve can also affect digestion, breathing, and then coughing, sneezing, swallowing, and that kind of stuff. So I would be very interested to know who diagnosed this and what they're thinking about doing about it. There are parts of the vagus nerve that go to what we call somatic components, which are sensations in the skin and the muscles, and then you've got the visceral components, which go to the organs. And anyway, you got anything on this one?
Well, I was just going to say that we actually do vagus nerve stimulation through the ears with needles and electrical stimulation for pain.
But it's for pain, though. That's for the somatic stuff. I'm not aware that it does anything for the visceral stuff.
Well, and there's actually a vagus nerve stimulator. It almost looks like a taser, believe it or not. You do it to yourself on the neck. No, and that's true. And it looks like a taser, but they actually use that for headaches and migraines. But as far as stimulating the visceral component, like the abdomen, I don't know. I don't know. I would try the ears first. I don't know that implanting a vagus nerve stimulator would be my first choice.
Yeah, they use that for like
bad cases,
seizures and depression and stuff. Now, let's just say that he had nausea, and the reason that he had nausea was because he had what we call gastroparesis, which is basically low functioning stomach, and that was caused by the vagus nerve. Then they could put a gastric stimulator, basically a gastric pacemaker, in the stomach to take the place of what the vagus nerve is supposed to be doing, and then it will contract normally. Well, not normally, but it'll contract better than it is. And I just wonder what caused this in him.
Well, he said they've it's almost an exclusionary diagnosis.
Yes.
And he said that they're almost at a dead end. He's just trying to find some answers. But the one thing he does have is the tachycardia.
He does.
So he's tachy. So he's got a fast heart rate.
Well, that's treatable.
Yeah, and it may be there may be some other underlying
usually with
cause
medication. So one thing I want to know is, does he have a gag reflex?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a gag reflex, that's indicative of vagal nerve dysfunction, because the vagus nerve does control the gag reflex.
Yep.
You can look at obviously heart rate, blood pressure, and cardiovascular response to exercise. So if they haven't done a stress test, or one of the things they could do if he's fainting and stuff too, is do a thing called a tilt table test. This is a fun test.
Oh, yeah.
They basically put you on this table. It's like a fun house
like
thing.
A tilt-a-whirl fun house.
Yeah, and they strap you to it, and now they start tilting you around, and then they see if you faint, and what do they have to do to get you to come back, and what positions, and how long can you stand them, and all that kind of stuff. And that will give you some idea of the autonomic function of the body, and also of the vagal nerve function. So anyway, it's a tough one. Because the vagus nerve controls so many things, you have to, it's very difficult sometimes to pin down where the problem is. Well, anyway, feel free to email me, and I can send you some more information on this, and let us know what kind of testing they have done, and maybe what they haven't done. If it's just your primary care trying to do this on their own, maybe time for a specialty consultation.
Mm-hmm. And I can send him some links too on vagus nerve stimulation.
Email us.
Sure.
Just go to drsteve.com and click contact, and just ignore the warnings. That says don't send medical questions. That's just for the riffraff.
Yep. The
people, people who aren't actual listeners. All right. Well, listen. Thanks, Dr. Scott. Thanks, Tacie, and thank you for your research on the arm weights, Tace. We're going to put you to work more often, because that was very interesting.
Put on payroll.
I want some wine.
Thanks to everyone who's made the show happen over the years. Has been and continues to be the most fun I've had in a long, long time. And listen to our SiriusXM show on the Faction Talk channel, SiriusXM channel 103, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, on demand other times at Jim McClure's pleasure. And thanks to our listeners whose voicemail topic ideas make this job very easy. And thanks to my niece Holly and her boyfriend, who they were about 80% of the shout outs at the end. And Tacie started giving me shit about it. And then I'm like, oh God, maybe I'm doing too much. So anyway, but it's because I haven't heard from her since I eliminated from the show. I used to always hear from her after every show.
Oh, no.
So she and I were raised like brother and sister. So thank you, Holly, for your continued support of the show. And I go to our website at drsteve.com for schedules, podcasts, other crap. Don't forget Dr. Scott's website at simplyherbals.net. Until next time, check your stupid nuts for lumps, quit smoking, get off your asses, get some exercise. We'll see you in 1 week for the next edition of Weird Medicine.
Bye.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.